Got to hit record. I'm a Texas land survey. Had a client ask to subdivide 1 acre into 3 lots before. Yeah, if you're going sub-acre in Texas, you need to make sure you have utilities because you're not going to be able to drill your own water well in Texas. But everyone's interested in how to subdivide
Right.
for good reason. You can make a lot of money doing it. Um, it's easier said than done in a lot of cases. A lot of people also have this misnomer on
Mhm.
subdividing that it's this complicated thing. We're building subdivisions with like 300, 400, 5,000, $100,000 square brick homes and selling it to developers and doing all this stuff. Believe it or not, I have worked with a developer, I think one time in over 20 subdivisions, and it was a land home company or land home packages for mobile homes. I usually don't work with developers. I don't do any ground up improvements. I will build roads and drill test water wells and run power, but I don't do any houses. I don't work with developers. I don't care what they're doing. I'm not trying to sell them paper lots. I'm trying to sell lots outside of city limits, preferably, not always, but preferably to the average person who wants to move outside of the city and go have some livestock, go put a mobile home, go build a home. I've had people build nice barn dominiums and site built houses on my land that I've subdivided, but this is not something where you have to do a bunch of concrete streets and work with developers and build houses and all this stuff. This is delivering land straight to the consumer. So this is kind of my bread and butter is subdividing land. Of course, my name is John Jasniak. I've subdivided, I've done over 20 subdivisions, 4 major, 15 or 16 minor subdivides. Just got another major subdivision under contract uh, yesterday, I guess, technically, $500,000 purchase. And we'll be doing a major subdivide out there. I just bought Cornutus. That's kind of my most recent project. Super pumped about that. Small town in Texas. Got a pretty decent social media following, Instagram and other channels and all that stuff. I do a lot of crazy content. Me and the ATM. This is my former life as a drilling engineer. Used to be oil and gas before I got into this business. And I started from zero. Like a lot of you guys, I was working, I was going to the office. I was luckily making a good chunk of change as an engineer, about 150,000 a year. So I just started rolling all that into real estate. I bought a couple of courses. Obviously, I teach now. I have a group, I have a course. I bought a couple of courses myself and went through those and bought my first piece of land and started just putting all my engineering capital into the land business, which is now, depends on how aggressive or conservative you want to get. It's anywhere from a $5 to $10 million business, call it 7 or 8, right in the middle, is what I built from zero. I teach people. We got about 50 guys and girls in the private group. I'm going to go over a student subdivision that he just closed here last week, and he's about to start selling it out near Amarillo, Texas. It's going to be over $1 million deal. There's guys in that group I'm helping do several $1 million deals on their subdivisions.
Please.
But there's there's opportunity for everyone everywhere, and you can do this all over the country. I do it in Texas mostly, but I got a student doing Virginia subdivides. We got folks up in Michigan. I'm going to try and do a Michigan subdivide myself probably this year because that's where I'm from. I'm from Rochester, Michigan. I've been in Texas since I was 18 and went to Texas Tech. Guns up. So it's a little bit about me. This is kind of my crown jewel, the one that I'm most passionate about, that I did the most work on. This was Jazz Acres. This is a major subdivision, which we'll talk about here in a second, the difference between major and minor subdivides. But I gave them on a seller financing agreement $250,000 down and 1.2 million over 10 years. And we went in and we created over 74 different lots. Here you see all the lots on paper. Again, I didn't sell this to any developers. They didn't come in and build concrete streets or homes or whatever. I sold this straight to Joe Schmo. And this is a guy who built a dirt bike track on one of the lots out there. So this was outside of city limits. I delivered this land straight to them. Made over $3 million in profit. It was like a $5 million deal in total. And this is something I always say is one land subdivision can be life changing. I mean, even if you do, a $400,000 or $500,000 deal, just a minor subdivide, like that really moves the needle. You make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in profit. That's more than most people make in several years of work. And really all you've done is, found a deal, put in the legwork, shuffled some paper, created some paper, and sold it off to people who want to use it. And that's what makes this so beautiful. Just there, I guess I make it sound pretty easy. It can be easy. It depends on the project. I've done some that have sold in less than a week. This one sold in 6 months. We sold all 74 lots. Do you back the deals? Yeah, so this question's going to come up. I don't back deals. I don't fund people. I'm starting to open up to doing partnerships where I will do all the legwork and all the sales and planning and everything for a 20 to 30% share of the profit. So we'll go in, let's say you got, a 100-acre piece, it's worth $300,000 as is. We can turn it into $1 million piece, subdivide it. You got 700,000 of margin there. I'll take 20 to 30% of that and do the whole thing for folks. But the course is $1,000. The private group is $250 a month. What this is going to turn into is a real exclusive group. Eventually, I'm going to do like a 25K plus. It's only going to be for people who are serious, have money, and all that stuff, and want to do subdivisions. But right now, I have everyone from beginners to full-on ballers doing multiple $1 million subdivisions. But yeah, $1,000 for the course, $250 for the group. DC is a good area. If you step outside of DC, Virginia, and the surrounding areas, I'll show some of that here today. Florida is really good. All of the formulas that I talk about apply to every state. I wish I had capital to help and fund all of you guys, but like I said, I just got another deal under contract yesterday for $500K. I use a lot of my own money. All my projects you see, such as this, I'm 100% owner. I take on debt. I have over $1 million in debt as a company, but I fund and own 100% of all my deals. I don't partner with people. I don't provide funds. I do teach and consult. And like my student Joey, who did this badass deal in Amarillo, I want to see you guys do the entire deal yourself, find the funds. There's plenty of Facebook groups you can go to. If you just go to Facebook, toggle to groups and search land flipping or land investing, join all those groups. That's where you can raise money. It's where all my students raise money. We have a spreadsheet of investors as well who are willing to fund. But I can show you how to raise funds, but I'm not going to contribute funds yourself. Send me your phone number. Yeah. We can book a call, but I'm not going to send my phone number out here. Country living is awesome. Yeah. Okay. So minimum amount of funding you're looking for. You just answered the question. I mean, I could use as much money as I could put to, I could use millions personally. Me and my students could, probably tens of millions could be put to work in this model. And so with this, this was my note receivable, I should say, with that underlying seller who I got seller financing from. Believe it or not, I actually found this deal online. It's still listed. The guy hasn't taken it off under contract. This was the deal I purchased straight from the internet. I bought it for less than they're asking. Ended up being 465 acres, not 475. And I paid 1.45 million for it. I paid for the roads myself. I paid to get just water wells tested. That was 15 or 20 grand. We did 10 test holes, built 5 miles of road on this thing. And the surveying and engineering, the drainage study and everything was $75,000 on this sucker. So all of that you can find funding for, but I was able to do it all myself because my company is big enough and I just use my own capital. But yeah, I still owe them over $500,000 on this note. And, I was able to pay off a big chunk of it within a year. So this is some of my major subdivides, bigger projects that I've done. I like to do a lot of these with seller financing. That's kind of outside the realm of this call. A lot of you guys are, how do I raise funds? Well, the best thing you can do is use the seller as a bank. And so you ask to give them 10 to 15% down and they carry the rest. A lot of people want cash, but you can still find sellers who are willing to seller finance. And if not, then you either have to come out of pocket. You can use a bank. I don't really recommend it though, for several different reasons outside the scope of this call, but mainly have to do with having to get releases and the paperwork involved with the bank. And a lot of times land can just not really appraise the way the banks would want it to. So There's ways to get funds though, but as a company, all these big subdivides it's about $10 million. And like I mentioned, I still have $1 million in debt on a lot of these notes, but a lot of it's been paid off. But all over Texas, and some really big projects. In your course, do you teach how to use other people's money? Yeah, I'm a big proponent of other people's money. I have my whole deal is creative finance. So like I like working with sellers, I like working with investors, selling my notes, etc. There's a whole thing in the course on creative and seller financing. Yeah, seller financing, not many people are doing it in land, which is crazy. How can you find honest people to work with? Well, you have to know how to read people, and business is a lot of psychology. So start reading and studying psychology. And my advice is not to jump into bed and do a deal with the first funder or investor that you meet, because some of them, even if they will give you the money, you don't want to work with them because they're just a pain in the ass. Yeah, I buy seller finance deals all the time. Yeah, website land.johnjasniak.com/course. That's for the course. You can just check me out at johnjasniak.com. Emails john@johnjasniak.com. Send me an email. So this man, in my opinion, only knows what he's doing. Well, I should hope I know a little bit about this stuff, at least running what is basically a $10 million business. You got to know something. I definitely don't know it all. So what's the difference between a major and a minor subdivide? All right. So the major subdivide, like I did with Jazz Acres, you're doing a full-on planning process, engineering, you need county approvals, and you probably need to build some sort of road. My advice for you guys, especially beginners, is do not start with a major subdivision. Even I today still struggle with major subdivides because they can be hard. It's hard to get them under contract. It's hard to do the due diligence. It's hard to work with the counties, which I'll talk about here later, and deal with their regulations and everything that the commissioners want. The easiest way to go about this is minor subdivides. This is one that I actually just sold one of my notes on today for $82,000 for track 3. Just, the road is right here across the north, Saltgrass Street. You go in, similar to the one I was showing at the beginning of the call. You run a surveyor out here. He breaks out 3 separate lots. They all touch the road. You don't need any engineering, platting, approvals, all that stuff with the county, pretty much ready to sell next day. If you're going under 10 acres or 5 acres or whatever the county deems as needing platting, then you would do a simple platting process with the county. But you don't need to build any roads. You don't need any infrastructure. Really, all it is a survey. And we, believe it or not, create value on these pieces of land just by breaking them down into smaller chunks. You say, okay, 3 12-acre lots versus a 36-acre lot. What is the difference? Well, there can be a significant difference. Each 12-acre lot, I'm able to sell for 80 or 90,000. Let's call it, 250,000 of gross revenue. Whereas a 36-acre lot, I bought this thing for, I think it was 150,000. It wasn't a great deal, but it was at 150,000. It was sitting on the market forever and it wasn't selling. 36-acre lot. So you break it down into smaller chunks, more people can afford it, more people can use it. And, just by simply breaking it down, if you start adding in roads, you're adding value as well. But just to break it down into smaller chunks it creates a lot of value, especially the larger you go in acres. This was 460 acres. So you break it down from 460 acres, someone wants $2 million for, down to a 10-acre piece where someone can buy it for 70 or 80,000. Obviously, more people can afford a 10-acre piece for $70,000 than a 465-acre piece for $2 million. So do you teach where to find potential investors? Yeah, the best place to find potential investors, guys, is the Facebook groups. Facebook groups have the best. Yeah, Michael's in the chat, my friend. I had a guy, one of the first investors who wanted to work with me. He's like, all about the deal. Yeah, I'm going to give you, it was 300,000. We're going to do it. We had it all lined up. I was under contract. He was about to fund it. Then the dude just disappeared. I was like, okay, well, where'd he go? And then I ended up finding other funding, and he came back like 2 weeks later. He's like, I had COVID I was like, so you had COVID, you couldn't text me or update me over the last 2 weeks, left me out to dry, find other funding last minute. And I just ended up seeing him in person. It was just the most awkward thing ever. It's just, I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on. He was kind of sketchy from the beginning. He just backed out, I guess, and didn't want to tell me and blamed it on COVID. So oil spill problem in Texas? No, no, because the OSHA and EPA is very stringent and really comes down on those oil companies. You can't just spill oil on the ground. If you do, you have to clean it up. Lisa, good to see you again. Yes, would love to have you. What's different between my memberships and all other online memberships is it's all me teaching like this, very in-depth. We do a 2-hour Zoom call every week, hour and a half to 2 hours, private WhatsApp group. I answer and I hold everyone accountable, including myself, and answer everyone's questions personally. Yeah, so depends on the county. Some counties, hey, Sonia's in here. Some counties have will let you build dirt roads. Other counties want you to pave. We're going to find out here in a second. Paving just about kills every deal. When you're talking a rural subdivision, you want to be able to build dirt roads. You don't want to have to pave. The cost for a dirt road is probably, well, it varies, obviously, very ballpark, $20 per linear foot. If you want to pave a road, you're talking probably at least $150 per linear foot. So it's over 7 times more expensive to build a paved road. Just a simple 2-inch asphalt treatment, you're talking a mile of road is going to be $750,000 to $1 million. A mile of dirt road is about $125,000. So that's why we like to build dirt roads if and when the county will let us. So that's the difference between minor and major subdivides. Major, built 5 miles of road. Minor, no road required. You might need a little bit of approval from the county, just stamping and approving, but no infrastructure. Just run a surveyor out there, ready to sell next day. I've sold some of these deals entirely a week after closing. So I bet a lot of you guys are like, okay, how do we find these deals? Well, there's 2 main ways. Direct to the sellers, which we used a lot of direct mail. This is my offer letter. I like to mail out for seller financing. That's what you can see, a down payment and then a note of X amount. So we'll mail out for seller financing. And the other way to do it is just to find deals online. I showed you how I found my big project online, and you can do it either way. I actually find more than half of my subdivisions on the MLS are listed online, which is pretty crazy. I'm gonna show you guys one here in a second that I just missed out on, but I'll share it with you. So this is my offer letter. What you'll find is, especially if you price it right, you'll usually get 1 acceptance out of every 300 to 500 mailed, which is a lot higher than some of you guys are doing the small flips. You have to send out thousands of pieces of direct mail. And we price it right too. We do about 70 cents on the dollar, because when you're talking these big pieces, you don't want to be 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar. No one's going to sell their $400,000 piece of land for $200,000. So I heard horror stories about just designate ingress, egress. Yeah, Tom, it's not that easy. You can't just designate an ingress, egress easement, especially in Texas and a lot of states. They'll kick you to platting if you try to do that, and then they'll make you build the road, because if they kick you over to platting procedures, then under their platting procedures, you're required to build a road up to county spec. So you could see how you could get yourself in a jam there if you just think you can do a little access easement to the back lots, call it good. Well, the county's going to find that out when you start selling those lots off and recording documents, and they're going to say, well, wait a second, this isn't up to county standards. We need you to build a road. So direct mail is a great way to find deals. I have about 1,500 pieces of direct mail out now. Starting to get calls back. Have yet to have a really good deal accepted that I'm ready to pull the trigger on, but it's still early in the process. The other way is just, like I said, on the MLS. This is one deal that I did actually. Oh, excuse me. Like I said, cold, so I'll be blowing my nose. I'm sure sneezing, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, this is one deal we found online. It ended up being 249 acres, I believe. So again, a little bit less. I didn't pay her $550. I paid her $165,000 down and $211,000 over 7 years. So $365,000 plus seller financing. So whenever I see a potential deal online, I'm just lowballing, anywhere from 50 to 70% of what they're asking to try and get the deal. So this was the deal. We actually just had closing package go out on one of these lots today. We created 20 lots out here, all 10 plus acres. It's actually in the PowerPoint here in a little bit, so I'll show you all, but bought it for $1,500 per acre, and we're selling 10-acre lots for $1,500 down and $500 per month for 120 months. That's a $43,000 note at 7% plus $1,500 down. So we're selling it for about $4,500 per acre. So bought it at $1,500 per acre. Did a survey. I will have to build roads on this, but they actually don't have any road minimum road specifications, so it's going to be a relatively cheap road. It's not going to be $125,000 per mile. It's probably going to be $50,000 or $60,000 for the mile of road out there. So I'll have a little bit of improvement to do on it, but not much. So, simple, run the surveyor out there, break it all out, and then build that simple road and sell it all off and triple your money. So it's going to be about $1 million deal, give or take. So online and direct mail. So when you're looking online or you're sending out direct mail, am I evaluating these subdivisions? That is super important to know how to do it. And the best way to learn is going to be through practice. So a lot of you guys are like, hey, I see a deal online. How do I know if it is a good subdivision candidate? Well, starting off, it's going to be difficult for you and you're probably not going to know. But the best thing you can do is do a little case study. Okay, what are the economics of this? What do I think I can sell 10-acre tracts for versus what I'm getting this 250-acre tract for? And also, what is the county going to require me to do? How am I going to be able to break it out like this? And so you start building like this case study in your head and on paper. And the more times you do that, the easier it's going to become. You're going to be able to see a deal right off the top of your head, right when you see it. But let's dive a little deeper in here. So at the very top of this, obviously IRR, which is internal rate of return, the amount of money you're making, and economics are the most critical. You're not going to do a deal if it doesn't make sense economically. You're not going to buy a piece for $3,000 per acre, subdivide it, and sell it for $3,500 per acre. That doesn't make sense, right? So you have to know your numbers, and that means you have to know what you can get the big piece at and what you can sell the small pieces for, which we'll talk about here coming up, how to comp it and how to really get a good feel for what the small pieces are going to go for. Then you start to build the economic case study for, okay, I'm going to triple my money. It's going to take me X amount of years to sell it. And then you'll be able to get your rate of return. And the metric for me, I would say, on these subdivides is at least 100% IRR. Okay, that's annualized rate of return, 100% at least on these deals. That means you're usually being paid out within 12 months. And depending on the size of the deal, how you're selling it off or whatever, you're, at least doubling your money, but a lot of cases 3, 4, 5x plus your money. So 100% rate of return annualized is the goal on these projects. We talked about this, finding online or offering 70 cents on the dollar over mail. If you're finding online, you're just offering them what you'd be offering them over mail. So it's usually around 70 cents on the dollar. Could be less, could be more. The deal we got accepted on yesterday, it's about 55 cents on what they were asking online. So I have that off the top of my head. Let me show you guys the one that I missed out on here. I made an offer on it, but it was just a little bit too late and ended up accepting someone else's offer. And you're going to say, well, how can I find these deals online? It looks too expensive, whatever. You can't be afraid to hear no. So they're going to tell you no, that's fine. Move on to the next one. This one in Ward County, 620 acres, they're asking $496. I offered them $255,000. And the broker told me if you offered them $275, they would accept. So I think that's probably what the other person offered them was $275. I was willing to come up to $275, but by the time I had texted the broker in my $255,000 offer, they're like, they already accepted the 275 over the weekend. I'm like, man, I didn't know y'all were taking offers over the weekend. I probably would have texted you it was over Easter weekend. So, props to them. And a broker and realtor actually putting in work over the weekend and taking offers, and they got under contract for, I think, probably 275,000 per acre. So 275 divided by 4.9, that's 55 cents on the dollar of what they were asking. So you can find this all the time online. You just make an offer, they say no, you move on to the next one. That's kind of the goal here. Go to your local property appraisal office, you get easements and roadies. Plus, when you do that, to use their map app, it's pretty cool. Yeah, some of those map apps are good. A lot of them aren't. You can't really just walk into your appraiser's office and get easements and road easements. That's more of a county clerk or county recorder thing. All those easements and everything are filed in the clerk's office. And a lot of times when you walk in there or call them up, they're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. And they're going to say, well, you need to start searching the records and see if you can find an easement to access the property. But if you're dealing with a property that needs to be accessed from an easement, so in other words, it's probably in this photo located like right here. Imagine like a rectangle right here, and you have to go in this person's property to get there. It's probably not a good subdivision candidate, because one of the most important things for subdivides is accessibility. This one obviously had great access, pavement on all sides. You can just slice it up into 10-acre lots, sell it off next day. Other are not going to have as good of access. Other pieces, you're going to have to build a road. I would say absolutely. It's not like a back and forth direct. Yeah, that's very true. A lot of people keep these letters forever. So, some folks get discouraged, or, that they mail out 1,000 letters and they're like, oh, I only got 1 or 2 calls or whatever. I've gotten calls from people back in 2016, 2017 who got my offer and decided to call me up 5, 6 years later. So we're almost like planting seeds as well. Because, those people, like that person said, they'll put it in their file cabinet, put it on their desk, whatever. They'll be calling you years down the road. So there's a utility to sending a direct mail. Show the angry letter in the bookcase. Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to see the angry letter. There's inappropriate words in there. But people will mail you and call you and be angry. But it's good practice for you to pick up those calls. Like, I still pick up all those calls, and you deal with the people. Like, I sent out mailers to a place in Texas. I offered him 10,000 per acre. He called me up all offended and wanted 25,000 per acre. I was like, we're too far apart, and that's going to happen. It's fine. So this is important to keep in mind. IRR is not the same as ROI, especially when you're dealing with these big subdivides, especially when you're dealing with funding and lending. You may have 10 or 20% in the deal. So you may have given 20% down, and either a lender or the seller is holding in 80% of the notes. And so, you double your money on the property. Well, you're not really doubling your money. You got to look at it cash on cash, and your IRR of that deal. You only gave 20%. So you're not just doubling your money. You really, 5xing, or 10xing your money. So if you buy a $100,000 piece of property, you're 5xing your money. $100,000 piece of property, you gave $20,000 down, you sold it all for $200,000. You turned, your 20,000 into the 200 minus 100,000 into $100,000. So you 5x your money, right? So it's not as easy as just looking at ROI. You have to really take into account internal annualized rate of return, which is your IRR. One of my favorite loan calculators. I use this all the time, every single day on my phone. Y'all should download this. It's really good. It give you amortization charts. You can back solve for interest, monthly payments, the whole 9 yards. So this is everything kind of goal seeks and calculates in the background and spits you out what you need. And then, of course, this website, they actually changed it. It now forwards to accurate calculators, but it's the same tool. This is where you run your economic analysis. This is a free resource. I use this on all my projects. And so, you would input the amount you paid for the land or your down payment. You would input your monthly payments that you expect to receive, or when you sell lots off, when you expect to sell them, how much you expect to get, and then you would hit calculate, and it would run the economic analysis for you and spit out what your internal rate of return is, your gross return, your ROI, and all these other metrics, net present value, everything. It's not really that important and outside the scope of this call, but angry calls, perfect judge your gratitude level. Yes. Yeah, you can't be afraid to offend people. If you're not offending anyone, you're probably not doing anything. Where online do you look? Landsofamerica.com. Online, landsofamerica.com. It's my favorite place to look for land deals. You send these via email. REI is just real estate investing. ROI is ROR is rate of return. REI is just real estate investing. So not quite sure. Looking at a property with a well that bank wants to take apart in order to check it. Well, I don't know why the bank would be interested in checking that well unless it's really deep or has a lot of value, because oftentimes what we'll do is when there's an existing well on the property, water can be really important for subdividing. So we will run a water well tester out there, and they will quote unquote take it apart. There's really nothing to take apart. I mean, you just take the cap off, and if there's casing in there, I mean, you might have to take a pump out. If there's a current pump in there, get a working pump in there and flow it and see what the gallons per minute is. But I'm not sure about that, Lisa. That sounds interesting. There's probably something going on there. That would be like an instance like Cornutus. That well is 900 feet deep and costs $60,000 to drill. So presumably, a bank might be interested to make sure that there's nothing wrong with that well. But that would be really extreme for a lender to do that. So I don't know. I'd have to get more info on that. What is terminology in the contract to ensure that I can sell even though I'm receiving? Michael, you want to waive the due on sale clause. Due on sale clause is what kicks when you sell the land or part of it. So you want to remove that and allow yourself to be able to sell all or part of the land or lease it. Sell all or part or lease the land while you're paying the underlying holder. And that's going to usually be located in the deed of trust, or if you're in a mortgage state, potentially in the mortgage. What site for the calculator? If you just Google financialdeskcalculators.com and IRR calculator, or screenshot this, they've since forwarded it to the Accurate Calculators website. So I guess I need to update my stuff. So here's the thing, best part of Florida for land deals. I'm not sure there is quote unquote a best part anywhere for a land deal, because money can be made anywhere as long as you're buying at the right price. So anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour outside of a metropolis or a decent populated area. Florida, the best area for a lot of people's probably quote unquote best area is going to be probably the Panhandle or the northern part, because the land is cheaper up there and it's less restrictions, less populated. But again, you find a deal near Miami or Orlando and you're paying 50 cents on the dollar. It's hard for me to say that there's a certain part of Florida that's the best. Yeah, okay, so if it's a home and it runs off of well water, then yeah, the bank might be interested in checking that out to make sure that it has water. Because if it didn't, that would be a big problem. No, Jillian, we usually get deals and then find an investor. We'll talk about this in a second, but you can structure to get it under contract with little to no money out of your pocket. And then try and find the money. Finding the money is actually, I don't want to say it's the easy part, but it's kind of easy. If you have a good deal, you're going to be able to find somebody, trust me, who wants to participate. Yeah, I have a hard money lender list. Best thing you can do though is just go to Facebook. Let me show you all. Facebook groups. I'm in a lot of groups, but like Retipster has one. I have one. I have a group. Land Investing Motivate. Land Geek has a group. Clint Turner, Learn.land has a group. Land Flipping 101 is a pretty decent sized group. I think there's like 14,000 people in this group. Yeah, 14,000. Land Geek has like 10,000. I have 2,000 and growing. I just started. So Facebook groups, post your deal on here, looking for funding. You'll actually actively see a lot of people. Let's go to the Land Geek one. And everyone always wants to learn how to fund deals. That's like the huge thing. How do I fund deals? What y'all need to really learn how to do is how to find deals. Because you can find a deal, like I said, then the money will come. So search this group, fund. Fundmyland.com. Whole list of people. I know a lot of these folks. Wholesalers, you find a deal, I'll find an offer, I'll fund it and offer owner financing. I'd like to introduce myself. I've been a long-time reader. I've been funding acquisitions. Another funder, parcelfunders.com. So just come into these groups and just search. It's not hard. Problem is though, is like we said, finding the right person who you trust, who resonates with you, and, build a relationship. It's kind of crappy just to kind of use someone for their money, for lack of a better language of it. But it's like, I've had, like I said, bad experience with some people. It's like, I'd rather not work with them. I'd pay them money, not to work with me. Yeah, real estate seminars are good. So I'd show you guys how to do all this. It's, when you're doing it long enough, it's just, I don't know, it's just, you learn these things. So county regulations are the most critical. I posted a few, but basically all you're going to do is wherever you're looking, just Google, in this case, Augusta County, Virginia subdivision regulations, and it kind of pops you up to this. You drill down deeper, subdivision ordinance, subdivision of land, and here is a 37-page document, which is not that big, that outlays all the stuff you need to do to subdivide your land. A lot of the things, like I said, comes down to road. The road is usually the big deal, and then secondarily is water. So let's see what they say about water. All required water shall be designed current standards of Augusta County Service Authority, blah, 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 blah. So the first thing you need to do is drill into these regs, and I like to do more than a skim, like a decent reading of it, and then I'll start calling the county. So if I was actively looking for a subdivision at a deal in Augusta County, I'd be calling them and be like, okay, it says that your water needs to be designed to the standards of Augusta County Service Authority. Who's the Augusta County Service Authority and how can I talk to them? You'll be calling them up and say, okay, what's the deal with your water systems? What specifically for water or septics do I need to be designing to meet your specs? This is pretty important because septic in rural areas is very big. So when private individual on-site sewage systems, that's septic systems, each system shall have blah, 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 reserve 100%. Type of system shall be shown on the plat. So you got to get to know these things in the county. And main thing you can do, like I said, is just call them up and ask them questions. Someone at the county will know. It's usually the commissioner or the judge. Liberty County is like my least favorite. It's 242-page document, which is pretty crazy. And, the roadways, page 64, you start reading this and you'll see that they require you to pave all roads, which we talked about that being usually at least $150 per linear foot. So that's the first thing I usually look for in these subdivision requirements is what do they make you do for roads? They're going to make me pave or do a dirt road. Secondarily, what their planning exemptions are. If you keep it above 10 acres with public access to each, can you get get away with not having the plat. In a lot of states and counties, that's true. So, you know, roads, exemptions, what they'll make you do with the water, all that stuff. I mean, if you have someone who knows what they're doing, they'll be able to walk you through all that. Course is $1,000. It's all video. You do it yourself. The mentorship right now is $250 a month, but probably in the near future, it's going to be reverted to just a like $25K, working with 5 to 10 people per year, and like people who are actually serious. But right now, it's open to just about it. It's $1,000 for the course and $250 a month. It's private mentorship by me directly. Yes, I will answer all of your questions. Get on calls with you. I've been on calls with well drillers, with students, with surveyors, with sellers, negotiating with students. Let's go to Joey's deal. Talk about Subdivide architecture real quick, because when you guys start seeing deals online or you get a piece of direct mail back and you pull it up on the map, let's take this one for example. You pull it up and it looks like this. It's a long rectangle. It has great road frontage along here, along here. We did a whole deep dive on the county and water and blah, blah, blah. Believe it or not, this is Carson County, Texas. They actually did not have any subdivision regulations. And what they wanted to do a platting approval process if it was under 10 acres, but over 10 acres, no plat required. Run a surveyor out there and sell it off next day. Well, on a subdivision like this is 320 acres. You always want to go down as low as possible as you can in acreage, because the lower you can drive the acreage down, the more money per acre you're going to make. A 1 acre lot out here might go for 20,000. A 10 acre lot out here might go for 40 or 50,000. So you're talking 3 to 4x the sales price if you can get it down to 1 acre lots. But the main thing out here was water. The water out here is, you have to drill a well, and the well water is not that great. So there was an existing well right in here that Joey had tested, and then he came out in here and drilled another test hole. I wanted him to go over here and drill it. I'm not quite sure why he drilled this location, but he did. And this one came back at 5 to 7 gallons per minute when it was tested. This one came back at about 3 gallons per minute, which is, it's enough. It's not ideal for residents. You want probably 7 gallons per minute at least, but you can get away with 3 gallons per minute. So we proved that there's water out here, and he's going to make a ton of money on this. The whole deal with the water drilling, I got on the phone with him, with the well driller, because when you do a test well, you want to spend as little money as possible. So you usually don't want to case and complete the hole. But the problem out here is they were drilling deep enough. It was about 350 foot deep where you couldn't air drill. So when you air drill a well, it's just, you have a rig and it's just blowing air to carry up all the cuttings and dirt that the drill is going through. And so when you hit a pocket of water, that air starts blowing up the water, and you can see approximately, a good driller will be able to tell how much gallons per minute he thinks that well is. You know, if it's really gushing and water's spewing up, then you know, okay, it's probably, 50 gallon per minute well or whatever. If it's just a little bit moist, then you know it's probably only a couple gallon per minute well. Keep it simple. But here, drilling 350 foot deep, you couldn't air drill. They had to use some drilling mud. So how would you be able to see if any returns were coming up moist or with water if you're drilling with mud and the mud is coming up? You're not. So that was my whole conversation with the drillers. Like, okay, how can we actually get some sort of flow test? We came to the conclusion that he was going to run temporary casing, drop a pump down the hole, and flow it for an hour or two to get a flow rate, then pull everything out. That's what he did. I was arguing with him back and forth, because you can get some drillers to drop a pump down an open hole without it being cased, but some won't do that because, especially at 350 foot deep, they're worried it's going to cave in. They're going to lose their pump, which is, $5,000-$10,000, whatever. So it depends on the driller, depends on the area, depends on the situation. Doing water line analysis is a whole nother ordeal, working with the water municipalities and engineers, but this one was fairly straightforward and simple. This was what he came up to with a plat all over 10 acres, utilizing flagpole strips to give access to these back lots to avoid platting. And so he bought this for, I think it was 350,000. And I think if I had to just put a number on it, it's probably 1.25 to 1.5 million sold off in these lots. So 1.25 million, he's gonna make anywhere from like 900,000 to 1.25 mil, call it. So this was a great success story from the group. How much is a test drill usually? Depends on the depth. It's usually, let's see, just to drill a dry hole here in Texas, it's like $18 per foot. But if you start going real deep, you start running into special rigs and stuff they need to use. So call it $20 per foot uncased. Yeah, you can see how we're getting into very specifics now with water wells, but yeah, all that stuff, you guys, for water wells, you can either look at a public database. Texas has a good one. Other states have their databases where all the water wells and their depths and reports are put in, or you just call up local drillers and talk to them, see how deep it is, see what they think water is going to do out there. Yep, he used Furman Engineering to run this plat. Less than 5, new currency. Yeah, I don't know about gold. I like gold. I actually took a payment in gold one day for a piece of land. That was fun. So this is all stuff that we talk about in the group. Walked him through this entire deal, multiple calls with him, multiple emails back and forth, reviewing stuff, asking questions, discussing the project. And he actually found his own funding on this. He didn't pay for it out of pocket. He got some funding on it. I'm not sure the specifics on his funding, but he did end up finding it. And so, he's not going to make the whole $1 million himself, but he'll make a good chunk, probably at least half. So he paid me $1,000. He actually paid me $5K, and he's going to probably make over $500,000. I'd say it's a pretty good deal. Do you do deals in North Carolina? Never have. I love the Carolinas. I love Virginia. It's a goal of mine to work out there and do deals one day. I got a student doing some pretty decent sized subdivisions in Virginia that he found online. All right, let's talk about how did he verify there'd be enough demand to sell all those lots off. So will it sell? At a high level, what you need to do is just look at comps. So this was Carson County. We'll come to Lands of America, go to Carson County, Texas, and the surrounding area. Toggle it from 5 to 20 acre pieces, turn on the map, do a search. See what stuff is listed for out there. 5 acres for 50. That's a way different part of the world. So he got this for $1,087 per acre, which is pretty crazy. As you can see, but for what other stuff is selling for, listed for, I should say, that was a pretty good deal. So there's not much listed out here actually, which is usually a good thing I have found. There's not many 10-acre lots listed. But you can look at this stuff and get a good ballpark of what you think it's worth, 4,000 or 5,000 per acre. My favorite tool for this stuff is the Facebook demand test. This is what I did on my Fort Stockton deal where we did 20 lots. It's going to be like $1 million deal. Joey did this on his Amarillo deal. He got some photos of the land. He fired up a Facebook ad on the marketplace. And I think he advertised it for $1,500 down, $400 a month for 120 months, something like that. That's like $3,500 per acre with owner financing. Call it around there, ballpark. He hit me up. He was like, I think he said he spent like $60 or $100, and he was getting so many messages that he had to turn off the ad. He ran into the Amarillo area. He was doing, I think, like $2 per lead or something, and people were hitting him up. It was like, when can I go see it? Where's this at? I'm ready to buy, etc. So this is my favorite way to do it. It's like any other business, especially in the e-commerce world. This is kind of where I got this trick from, because I would go to a lot of these e-commerce conferences and stuff. And what they would do is they would come up with some product, call it a sweater or some gadget or whatever. And I've actually done some of this myself. And what they would do is they would get an image mocked up of it from like, a CAD designer or something. They would get a 3D image and a rendering, and then it would make just a little landing page. And then they would post it, hey, $10, $50 for the sweater, whatever. And they would run Facebook ads to it and see how many buys they got on the ad before loading up on a bunch of inventory or, spending thousands of dollars on the product. So I was like, if these e-commerce guys are doing this to test market and test ideas and products and everything, I'm gonna do this exact same thing with land. So whenever I go into a new area, and especially on the big projects, if I'm unsure, I'll do a Facebook demand test and, post as if it's coming soon, or I own 5 or 10 acres in whatever area. Post it at what I think I'm going to sell it for, and then see what happens. Anything less than $10 is pretty good, but certainly under $5 is where you want to be. And like I said, he was at, I think, $2 or $3 per lead, which is pretty dang good. So, when you're getting dozens of messages on Facebook for your land, it's going to sell. That's my favorite way to do it. Yeah, the e-commerce, you'll learn a lot of stuff from e-commerce stuff. Did he buy with owner financing? He didn't buy that deal with owner financing. He got his own financing. I'm not sure the terms of that financing, but he had someone fund basically the entire deal, and then they're working on a profit split. So it's pretty exciting. There's another guy in the group who has a project near Corsicana. Actually, I can pull it up because I remember seeing it the other day. It is Navarro County, Texas. Logan in the group. I think he's still going through the planning process, but he joined the group, and I pretty much convinced him that he needs to do 1-acre lots. This is his plat map. Instead of 10-acre lots, he's got it listed at 2.4. That's quick sell price, but if he sold all these off individually, 114 acres, it'd be about $3.5 million for this project. Dropping lots of pearls. Yep. That's what I like to do. Knowledge. So back to subdivide architecture, what you really need to do when you're looking at this is figure out how you're going to break it out. It comes down to dimensions, road access, what the county will make you do. Here's an example of 1-acre lots. So I literally just look at this on the map on Google Earth. I pull out the measuring tool. I start seeing how deep this stuff is. How much can I give each lot frontage? Will the county make me do this or that? Build a road? Can I stay over 10 acres? And you start to carve it out. And if you have to build roads, you start to carve it out to where you can minimize your road build, such as this, just one road with a cul-de-sac. Boom, quick and easy. All the lots have road frontage. It's basically 3 rows of lots, right? 1, 2, 3. And the more you do this, the more you practice it, the better you're going to be. The quicker you're going to find a deal, and the more money you're going to make too, because you'll be able to really optimize things. First couple of times you do it, it's probably not going to be completely optimized, but you'll still make a bunch of money. And then when you really get it honed in, start carving these suckers out, making a bunch of money. Great info. Want to do that first. Yeah, sorry, my freaking thing's lagging a little bit. All right. Do you all do little deals also for, do you all do little deals also for making more money for larger deals, or just go larger with funding? Okay. Well, when you're starting off, you should definitely be starting small. Probably a minor subdivision to start, unless it's just perfect setup for doing something else. But your first subdivision experience should be something like Joey's. This is a minor subdivision. This is a big minor subdivision. But 40, 50, maybe 100 acres that you can carve out. maybe it's even less, 20, 30 acres that you can carve out to, 5 to 10 lots, all with access points, and you don't have to do much. That should be where you start. So you're going to make a bunch of money. You're going to get a bunch of experience. You start going into larger deals with a funder. You got to keep in mind, if you're a funder, it's like, okay, this person with no experience, I'm going to be giving them hundreds of thousands to do a subdivision. You got to build up some credibility and experience. So you should be starting small. Don't use funding or debt. Here's the thing, definitely don't use debt when you're starting off. Okay. I get students and people who want to do that. They're like, I'm going to take a loan out and do this project. I'm like, dude, no loans. Do a few deals first, make some money, and use that money to do bigger deals. Now, if you want to find someone who's going to fund it for you and pay 100% of the cost and split the profits, that's fine. But you don't want to be taking out debt, either personally guaranteed or even guaranteed by your company, XYZ Land Corp. You don't want to be taking out debt. If you want to have a funder, find someone who's going to fund the entire piece and then split the profits with you. And they can be collateralized by the piece, but you don't owe them anything, right? They bought the whole thing and you're basically doing the work and they're providing money. Don't be taking on debt starting. Past 12 months, what's been your best deal? What's been your worst? Great class. Best deal in the last 12 months. Probably the Sports Stockton one. The one I found online for Stockton, Texas. And it's this plat map right here. I guess it's technically a minor subdivision because I didn't have to go through approvals, but really it's a major subdivide because I have to build roads, run some power, etc. So it's really a major subdivision right here. This has been my best deal. It's probably $1 million deal, really good return. I've been really focused on trying to do major subdivides the last year, and they've been really challenging and difficult. So this one's probably, Jazz Acres is obviously the best. And I got a couple others, but I like this one from a return perspective and amount of work. This was challenging, but the return is high because you had this creek coming through here. And we're still actually working on the specifics of the deeds for these lots. It's actually really, not to get too much into the details, but it's really crazy some of the stuff that we're having to do. We had to chop out this tract, work with the title company. We created different form deeds for each section of this subdivide. Like these lots have their own deed. These lots have their own deed. These lots have their own deed, and these lots have their own deed. So there's all this different stuff going on. I think I spent like 20 or 25,000 in legal fees on this property. It's pretty crazy. What's been my worst? Honestly, probably this the one I talked about earlier, this minor subdivision right here, just because the numbers weren't that great. It was really easy, but I bought it for 180. I only spent 5,000 on the survey, so I was in it for 185. And then each lot I'm selling for like 3,000 down, 5,000 down, and 1,250 a month for 120 months. Let's see, back to my loan calculator. That should be, it's $107,000 note times 3. So that's 321,000 over 10 years. So like I'm not even doubling my money over 10 years. The rate of return, if I were to just cash flow this, would be really bad. But I'm selling these notes. I just sold this note today for 82,000. Plus I collected some money on it. All said and done, I was about $100,000 on this one lot. These other two will be the same in about 8 months' time. So I made 120,000 on 100. I made 120,000 on 185,000 in 8 to 10 months' time. I don't know what the IRR is on this, but I think it's probably only 60 to 70%. This has been my least favorite and worst deal in a while, actually. And I would never have bought this one if it weren't for back to working with people and having financing and stuff in place. I had this all lined up to raise funds and do this whole creative project with it. And that all fell through last minute. And so I was stuck with this, about 2 weeks left on the contract. I was like, do I want to cancel it, or do I want to just buy it $180,000 out of my own pocket, which was not very smart, by the way, and then just sell them off and sell the notes and make some money. And I was like, I know this market like the back of my hand. I'm not going to have to do much, just survey it off and sell it. So I decided I was going to come out literally 180,000 out of my own pocket. And then, I'm going to make 100, 120 over 10 months. So it's like, that 180,000 would have been used much better elsewhere, in my opinion. Yep. First half, this was all recorded. I've never been to a county meeting, but I've been into county officials' offices and talked to them. You don't really go into meetings anymore nowadays with the commissioners or whatever. If anything, it's done over Zoom. Some people do that, but most of the time, I'm just working with them in their offices, and then it goes before the commissioner's court. Other people money, hell no. What? Other people's money is good. How do you do your splits? Depends on the deal. It's a really broad question. If you want to ask that again with more detail, please do, because I'm just a little confused on how do you do your splits. Nope, I don't recommend working with builders and getting them to do anything. I recommend selling it straight to market and working with doing it all yourself and selling it off to individuals who are going to go out and use it. Now, if you're inside city limits and you have sewer and water lines and all that, and you can take it down to a 0.1 or 0.25 acre lots, then yes, you might want to look into getting, see if a builder is interested in doing that. But people have this misconception that you need builders or developers involved. None of this stuff I do has anything to do with builders or developers. I do this all myself and sell it off to normal, everyday people who want to use it for pretty much anything you can ever imagine. And yes, you could do it. If you want just an AI image, go to upwork.com and get someone, take a photo of your land and get someone to render a building on there to use it. You don't need a builder for that. Do you have to pipe? I don't know what that means. Did you have to pipe? Oh, the creek one. No, that creek is an old dried creek bed, so it's not actively flowing. And when it does, there's a little bit of a flood zone here, but we didn't have to do any piping or anything with it. As you can see, the roads are purposely designed to stay as far away from this zone as possible. Where do I serve? Skills trade? I'm interested in partnering. If you're interested with partnering with people, the best thing you can do is back to the Facebook groups, man. Go into the Facebook groups either with a deal and ask for funding, or go in there and offer to fund someone who has a deal, or find someone in there who's a hustler and partner with them. There's a lot of good people in those Facebook groups. Yeah, I have a lawyer on retainer. He's a badass. Well, he's technically not on retainer. He made me do a retainer when we first started, but now we talk multiple times a week, and he just sent me a $30,000 bill. So he's not really on retainer. He just bills me as it comes. He called me up today and said, working on these TV deals for Cornutus, and he's trying to hook me up with his partner knows some people in Nashville who own a production company. So he's like, just talked to Kevin, and so-and-so texted him and said, sounds like an interesting project and we'd like to talk to John. So he called me up just to tell me that. So he's always called me and talking back and forth. We went over this a lot. How do we buy the land? It'll be in the recording. Square lot couldn't be a part of a land lock. This is a little unclear to me, Matthew. If you're talking about this deal, this one I had to keep them all above 10 acres because there's a groundwater conservation district out there. If you're over 10 acres, you're exempt and you can drill your own water well. Now, if you could have drilled, the water was really good in this area. Actually, there was 2 wells already out there, and I had a guy go out and test them. It cost me $3,000. dropped a pump down each and flowed them. They were both at least 50 gallon per minute wells. We had it choked. The highest the meter would go was 50 gallons per minute, and it hit it with no problem. So it was at least 50 gallon per minute wells. If I could have gone under 10 acres out here, I for sure would have went down to 1 to 3 acre lots because there was plenty of water. Access is good. I could have just did a little bit more road. So for sure, 1 to 3 acre lots out here would have been fantastic. Instead of it being $1 million deal, it probably would have been a $2.5 million deal. But the groundwater conservation district killed that one because there's no water line out here. So you have to drill a well. In order to drill a well, you need 10 acres. Yes, you should definitely take a real estate class before doing this. That's funny. You bring that up. I can't tell you how many times I get people who come to me. They're like, I have this $100,000 or $500,000 piece of land under contract. I'm $25,000 hard on it. Or, I bought this $100,000 piece of land to subdivide, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, it's not a good deal. You can't even subdivide it. You have to build paved roads, or, you paid way too much for it. You're talking 6-figure plus investments. Yes, you should be able to spend. You can spend $1,000 on a course and $250 a month for mentorship, or even 5-10 G's for mentorship. You probably shouldn't be buying $100,000 piece of land because you're gonna F around and find out, like they say, real quick, when you spend $100,000 and you have to build a paved road that costs 500 grand. You don't know what you don't know. Yep. What percentage is fair for split if someone just does funding? Do you use online? No, the engineering I use is tied into the surveyor. So whatever surveyor I use and whatever county, I make sure that they're also able to do the engineering. What profit split is fair for funding? It's usually 50-50 of the profits, especially if you're funding the whole thing. I would say as the funder, sometimes the funders get less, like 20 or 30% of the profit. But especially if you're funding the whole thing, you should be getting, as the funder, as the investor, 50%. You should be getting paid out first and 50% of the profit. If you're working with someone like myself, someone really experienced, it's a really good deal, whatever, getting paid out first or getting mostly paid out first plus a 20 to 30% profit split is, I have seen that, but it's usually 50-50 of the profits. I like you. You know your stuff. Well, thank you, Mr. Rogers. Yeah, there's a road right here that leads to these middle lots. Never landlock land. It's unethical. So don't subdivide land and landlock it. There's a lot of guys who did that in Texas. Extremely unethical and also going to destroy the value of the land. So I don't know. It's just literally pure laziness. If you're doing that, I mean, come on. Use some common sense. Good questions, though. I like these. Everyone is always super interested about subdividing, so it doesn't surprise me that we got a lot of people in here, and a lot of people want to ask questions because subdividing is like the whole craze nowadays. All right, let's see what else. Mouse is stuck. Right. Will this be saved? Yep, it'll be saved. Check it out on my Facebook page, Instagram. It'll be posted everywhere. How is the market affecting land profits? I haven't seen a lot of effect. If I'm being honest, sales have definitely slowed. It's become harder. It's definitely become harder to find deals because we're stuck in this climate where sellers still think their shit is worth gold and their land is worth $1 million, even though the market has turned. So the market has turned, but they're still stuck in, 2020, 2021, where we had crazy real estate prices, probably 2021. They still have that mindset. So It's hard. It's been a little bit hard to get them to come down to their prices. Sales have slowed a little bit, but other than that, I mean, I'm not really seeing, it hasn't made a major effect in my business. Yes, exactly. This is, if you find a parcel surrounded by roads, can you just subdivide it to the existing roads and bypass further development? Yep. That's what you call a minor subdivide. That is, you can make a lot of money doing that. The biggest and best way to scale to tens of millions is to do major subdivisions, build roads, create a lot of small lots. But certainly as a beginner and certainly even as an expert, you can make a lot of money with minor subdivides, like you said, just carving it out along the existing roads. And that also keeps you away from having to build roads, which means raising funds or coming out of your pocket to build $100, $200, $300,000 road. Yep. Direct mail, you'll be surprised. When's the next giveaway? I was supposed to do one April 2nd, I think it was, but I didn't do it, but it's coming probably this month. Can you give us a comp example or lesson? Can you give us a comp example? Things to look at. Yeah, so I will do that. How are the tax consequences with short-term capital gains? Land doesn't have, you can't depreciate land, so it does not have a lot of tax benefits. However, the returns are a lot higher and it's a lot simpler than development and a lot of other forms of real estate like multifamily. So tax consequences, short-term capital gains, yes, you're going to be taxed at your full income tax bracket. But take some of that cash that you make with land and invest it in a multifamily or mobile home syndication or something so that you get depreciation. Be my best advice. Make a bunch of money in land, invest elsewhere for depreciation. God dang, this thing is really lagging. Okay, here we go. How do you determine offer price on a mailer? By looking at what's selling in the market and offering 60 to 70 cents for bigger pieces. 60 to 70 cents for what stuff is selling for. Zoning. We're outside of city limits, so we're not really dealing with zoning. I don't like to deal with zoning. That's why I like to stay outside of city limits. So a lot of this stuff in all states, whether it's Texas, Virginia, Carolinas, Floridas, we're dealing with usually no zoning. Sometimes they'll say, you know, no RVs or no whatever, no mobile homes, no junkyards, whatever, but it's usually very minimal zoning. And that's the best. Not non-restricted, no zoning land sells the best. Believe me. As soon as people think that you're going to start restricting it and creating value and everything, you're not. You're going to create issues. So never purchased at auction. One of my students has though. I was surprised. He's like, I found a smoking deal at auction. Every time I go to auctions, there's usually not any good deals. But for those of you who have deals you want me to look at, or you want to hop on a call or something to talk about coaching, john@johnjansnick.com, land.johnjansnick.com/course is my course where I break down not only this, but flipping, wholesaling, creative finance. What else do we have in there? Economics, basically everything. But email me. We can hop on a call if you're interested in basically me teaching you all of this and helping you do subdivisions and do all this stuff. That's what I like to do. Let's take a look. Someone requested an example for comping. Let's go down to a place where I really want to do a deal, which I'm looking very hard, is Navarro County. So that's funny. If I was going to do a subdivide in Navarro County, it would be anywhere from 1 to 10 acres. That's pretty much the case everywhere. I would do a subdivide. It's 1 to 20 acre parcels. So here we see 10 acres for 130. Let's set some filters. Let's see what 10 acre lots are selling for in Navarro County. 13K an acre, 10K an acre, 11K per acre, 20K per acre. I want to set it for 10 acre lots. 13, 11.5, 11.5. 13, 15, 12. So it looks like 15 for land outside the city limits in Navarro County, anywhere from 12 to 15K per acre for a 10-acre lot. All right, it's a good place to start. Now I'm going to start looking at bigger pieces called 100-acre plus pieces to see how much that's going for. And I already know it's usually in Navarro County, it's anywhere from like 6 to 8K per acre is a decent for a larger piece. Here's 8K per acre, 6K. It's a little over 10. That's pretty expensive. It has a house on it. It's over 10. This is 10, 7, 7 or 8. This one's really cheap, but I already looked at this one's got a wind farm. It's got problems. It's got basically no access and no wind rights in the middle of a wind farm, so that's why it's so cheap. So to find a good deal in Navarro County is probably 6 or 7K per acre for a larger piece. You could do 10-acre lots and basically double your money, 12 or 13K per acre. Always take the conservative end of it. So be conservative, low side of it. So you're only doubling your money. That tells me I'm obviously going to need some funding. I'm going to need to have a sweet deal where I can do a minor subdivide along an existing road for 10-acre pieces. Where I don't have to do any infrastructure. Then I'm probably going to have to sell some of those notes to get my IRR up, but you can do it. You find a piece for 6K an acre. It's 80 acres with great road frontage. Make 8, 10-acre lots. Avoid platting. Sell it all off for 12 or 13K per acre. And make 500,000 bucks in a year. More than achievable, but where you make the real money is dropping down to 1-acre pieces. So you find a 100-acre piece for, call it 6K per acre. You get a really good deal. Then you drop it down to 1 acre. 90, it's a little high. 120, it seems a little high. 120, 40. Seems that's 55. 30, 30, that's beachfront. 100, this is in some gated community. This is a good comp, rural, 60K. So anywhere from like 40 to 60K for 1-acre lots. Huge jump from 10-acre down to 1-acre, you're talking 4X. The reason why is in Navarro County, the water infrastructure is really shitty. And oftentimes these water lines that run out there, you have to do hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of infrastructure upgrades. The one good thing about Navarro County is they will let you do dirt roads. There's a good comp, 40, 30, 35,000, 37,000 per acre. So you're talking 40K per acre if you can get it down to 1-acre lots. Buy a 100-acre lot for 6K per acre. Now, let's say you actually did find a smoking deal. It's 100 acres for 6K per acre. You're like, all right, I'm going to deep dive into this. What should you be looking for? Water? Is there water line? Can you drill wells? How feasible is that? Access? Are you going to have to build roads? You have to do paved road, dirt road. Let's say it all lines up and you're like, all right, I can buy this 100 acres for 600K. And I have to do minimum infrastructure upgrades, call it 100K. You're in it for 7K per acre. You're like, man, I've never done Navarro County before. How do I know I can actually sell 1-acre lots for 40K per acre? Well, Facebook demand test. I would be pulling up Facebook, posting some photos of the area, preferably go out there, get somebody to go out there, get photos of the land itself, post it up, run some ads to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And 1 acre coming soon, Navarro County, 40,000 bucks. If you're under $5 per lead per message, it's pretty smoking, which you will be because I've had students do it out there, and that's a very hot area. And if you ran the Facebook ad and everyone said, "Oh, 40K is way too much," you're a troll. This, and your cost per message is $50. Then that 40K for a 1 acre lot is not reasonable. Now you're back to the drawing board. Okay, what can I sell these for? Can you sell 1 acre for 20K per acre? So you're basically tripling your money. You know, depending on what they'll make you do with roads and everything, it might be a good deal or it might not be. So that's kind of in a nutshell. There's a lot more details that goes into it. Obviously, you'd be talking to local water municipalities, local surveyors, the county, kind of lining it all up at once. You know, probably a week's worth of calls. But the good thing is, once you do that once in Navarro County, boom, now you figured out, okay, the county will let me build dirt roads. Okay, it's gonna cost me $50,000 to get this thing platted out and surveyed and engineered. You know, it's gonna cost me X amount to drill a water well. Now you have all this information from Navarro County. Let's say it's not a good deal at the end of the day for this specific 100 acre property we're hypothetically talking about. Now, when you see that next 40, 50, 100, 200 acre property, and you like, oh, this one could be the deal. You have all this stuff lined up, ready to go. You know how much everything costs, all the processes, who to call, and it starts getting way easier. Where would you find area information you aren't familiar with? So this is the place to look for the land for sale. Realtor.com and Zillow I use too, because a lot of times realtors will be posting on realtor.com or Zillow, but not Lands of America, which is stupid because Lands of America does like at least 10x the traffic as those other sites. So you can get into a situation where a realtor thinks they have it posted on realtor.com and it's listed, but in reality, they're not getting any views because no one goes to realtor.com looking for land. So to find information on areas, I mean, it's just calling the county, going through the county offices and county website, Google Earth, getting familiar with the area. Yes, calling local real estate professionals, both brokers and realtors. You can find all of them listed on here. You just click a listing, scroll down. It's listed by Eric Bonner out of Corsicana. So you can literally make a whole list of people. Diamond J Properties, Chip Watkins, John and Julie Teal. You can call up all these people. Amanda Ryan. So yeah, like if they have water problems or things that the locals may know. Local real estate professionals are going to know a lot of that. The county will know a lot of that. When it comes to like something very specific like water, a well driller will know all of that. Power company will know all of that. So that's more of like a compartmentalized, segregated, separate thing. Everything that you're researching, somebody out there will know about it. Guaranteed. Yep. All right. Any other questions, guys? It's been pretty good. We've been going for an hour and a half. Didn't really talk about selling notes or contract, but it's less important. You just want to be careful when you get something under contract. You want to be giving as less option money as possible and the longest option period as you can. Every seller, every deal is going to be different. Some won't want to give you any options. Some people will be more reasonable, like, yeah, take 60, 90 days, whatever you need. Funny enough, this lady, the land's coming out of CRP September 30th. So I kind of need to wait until September 30th, technically, to start selling. She's like, I'm fine with going under contract and closing date September 30th. I was like, that's like, what, 150 days away or something crazy? I'm like, well, I think we'll be good like mid-August because I can still start sales then. So I was like, let's do mid-August. How much is coaching? $1,000. $1,000 course, one time, learn it all yourself. Private coaching, $250 a month. I'm not gonna be doing it this way for much longer because I'm tired. I get irritated by people sometimes. No offense to you guys, but I'm trying to run a legitimate massive business. And so it's like, I'd rather work with 10 folks per year paying me 50K and doing massive subdivides than work with anyone and everyone who's going to be paying me 250 a month. Like I said, we got like 40 or I think it's like 43 guys and girls in the group right now, 40 or 50 people. But I can help you with anything and everything, whether it's flipping, finding funds, big subdivides, building a business, like record keeping, managing the business, direct mail, whatever you want and need to learn about marketing, big in sales and marketing, especially Facebook. All of that's covered in the course. It's very hands-on, personalized, private WhatsApp group. I got a Zoom call with a student tomorrow. He's made an offer on, I think it's 40 acres near Abilene, Texas. And so we're going to walk through it. Just a 30-minute Zoom call. He's going to do 5-acre lots, 8 5-acre lots out there. So, just, hey, hop on a Zoom. I need to ask you this, this, and this. So I'll hop on for 15 or 30 minutes. John Rogers, I don't think I have your email, man. You email me. Everyone be saying email, call me. It's like, if you really want, like, you think, no offense to you guys, you think out of the dozens of people or hundreds of people that like I'm gonna email and call you, it's like, I wish I could email and call everybody. I just can't. It's like when people, I always crack up when people who are trying to buy land from you, like, is this still available? Like, no, it's all sold. I revert them to my email list, join the list. And they're like, can you let me know the next time you have land near Abilene, Texas? I'm like, you literally know I get like 100 people asking me that. I cannot possibly remember to reach out to you, Sally Smith, and tell you when my next 3-acre comes available right away near Abilene, Texas. On average, how much time commitment? 10 to 15 hours per week. Yeah. Yeah, be careful of the people who are like, I got millions of dollars to spend, or I got, I want to do $100,000 or $200,000 subdivide deal with you or whatever, and they can't even spend $250 for coaching or $1,000 for coaching. What's up, bud? Good to see you again. And my nose really, really sniffly. All right, well, for those of you who want to reach out direct, John at johnjasnick.com. We can hop on a quick call if you have questions about coaching or the program. I think it's the most badass land coaching out there. I hear that time and time again. I don't know anyone else. Well, I do know of one other group doing big deals like this, but really to walk and help a student from 0 to $1.25 million subdivision near Amarillo, or, $500,000 subdivision out in Tennessee, or, whatever, multi-6-figure subdivides from 0. I don't really know many people out there teaching or doing that. The reason why I'm able to do that is because it's so personalized. I'm actually in the WhatsApp group chat. Do this, do that. Yes, looks good. No, try this. And, I don't know everything. I learn from my students sometimes as well, which is good. I find deals from them sometimes as well, which is cool. And vice versa. Sometimes I pass deals on to them. So it's a win-win for everybody. Any last questions? This recording will be saved. I'll post it up on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Reach out to me direct. John at johnjasnick.com. Check me out on Instagram, social medias, John Jazz. I'm gonna get more active with my podcasts and everything. I'll probably be doing a live event sometime this year. I might do it out at Cornutus, so we'll see. See what happens. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for stopping in. Hope you learned something, and let's do some deals. Work with a couple of you guys. Come do some subdivisions. Would love to help you. So have a good night, everybody. Hope to talk to some of you soon.